This is what we said copyright is, right? The protecting rights of ownership of authors and their original creations. I suppose on that video we ought to add sort of not just authors, which we think of as like ideas, but say inventors. They were a group explicitly mentioned there, right? And their original creations or discoveries. I suppose that would include like scientists and that kind of thing. People discover and you get a Nobel Prize for all that. Copyright covers all of those things. Okay. Now it says we're protecting these people because of reproduction. Distribution was one that was also mentioned in the video. Distribution. Being able to make money off it, that's what we meant by commercial purposes. And we said there's all these reasons why copyright law is a good idea, why it's important to protect these people, not just for their sake, but for ours as well as consumers, to make sure that money is going into the industries that provide all these things we enjoy. Okay. So now, let me clear this off. I want to think about the fact that in multimedia, this is IPT, right? Multimedia and the fact that it's all digital now, changes copyright law big time, right? Because copyright laws existed before, multimedia went digital, but it wasn't quite the same. It didn't have the same limitations and requirements on it. Okay. For instance, when you make a copy of, say, a CD, right? So, okay, a CD. What's it look like? If you were to burn that, right? And you have another CD now, okay, which has, say, it's an album or something like that. What's the difference between these two CDs? How would you describe the difference? Or maybe there's like,
One of them was legitimately published and created, and the other was
right. Okay. So your original, or not original, but maybe the one that you purchased. That one was created by people who had the copyright. Yeah, okay. Often say, we're talking about music, like say an album. So it was created by the, what are they called? Recording companies, that kind of thing, right? And they have the rights to do that. When we create the copy, it was created by different people, and so the rights have not been carried over. But here's the important thing, okay? What is the actual part of this CD that's the important part? Like there's album art on it, and the CD itself is like sort of plastic and some metals and all that kind of thing. But the important part of it is, this is the course, right? It's the data. It's the zeros and ones that actually make up the music that we're listening to, right? And that part is identical. Right? It's literally exactly the same. And this is what poses a problem, okay? By the way, this wasn't always the case. Before CDs, how did people buy music before CDs? I know this is before your time. Okay, so alternatives to this, right, were things like vinyl records. Now, that's going way, way back. There was something major in between. What was in between? Cassette tapes, right? Okay, now the gramophone, it's interesting. The gramophone, vinyl records, they weren't subject to nearly as much, piracy and that kind of thing, because vinyl records are quite hard to produce, right? It's not easy to do quite specialized machinery. But when the cassette tape was introduced, everything changed, right? Because what's a cassette tape made out of? What are the actual materials? Plastic, right? And like there's a magnetic film, right? Now the thing about these, the important quality about these is that they're very cheap to produce, right? Very cheap to buy. Like, just a few dollars you can get them, you can mass, purchase them, right? So what happened was, with the introduction of cassette tapes, it sort of led to a massive bootleg industry. You know what bootleg means, right? It's about copying things without their permission, okay? Because copying became so much more easy, right? But can you see how now that things are, this is all analog, right? Moving over to digital has made it a step up, right? And I think we would say, CDs now, actually, CDs are pretty old-fashioned now, aren't they? What have we moved to? What kind of model? We've gone to YouTube and to iTunes, right? So both of these now, they've made it one step further. You see how it continues to cause problems for copyright law and people, right? It went from difficult to produce to easier to produce and purchase. But still, when you made the copies, it wasn't identical like it is with CDs. So one more step. And now here, there's not even a physical thing that you have to actually get. You can just download it, right? Or in the case of YouTube, as you watch the video, there are tools out there to actually just remove the audio portion out if that's what you're after. Okay? So, how's copyright law, and this is, I've just been talking about music, think about software and all those kinds of things, right? How has copyright law, and particularly the Copyright Act, had to adjust? There are two main adjustments that have had to be produced. So, let me explain these two. How has the Copyright Act been amended now that all of this data we're talking about is digital? Okay, number one. We are allowed to make a single copy of anything, any data, any program, any audio, that kind of thing that you've purchased, right? You're allowed to make just one, but for a specific purpose. Does anyone know what it is? Backup purposes. Now, no matter what it is, you have that because they know in reality, CDs get scratched, that kind of thing. You're not intending to try and, this is about the purpose statement, right? You're not intending to make money off it. You're just trying to make sure that you'll be able to keep on using the thing that you've paid for, right? Okay, so you can make a single copy. That's the first way that the act has been amended. Secondly, if you sell, right, or transfer ownership of such data, okay? Suppose you're like, I bought this copy of Photoshop. I don't need Photoshop anymore. I was doing a project and now I'm finished, okay? If you sell or transfer ownership of that, what must you do with the copies that already exist? Because copying is what happens when you install something, right? Well, if you sell or transfer ownership, all existing copies that you're in possession of must be destroyed. Okay, you see how this clause wasn't necessary when we just had data that was just physical, right? Like when I give you a book, it's not like I still have a copy of the book left over and it's like, oh, I've got to burn it, okay? Because now you have it, right? Like the video said, right? If I take it from you, you don't have it anymore. But in terms of digital data, it's not the same, right? If I sell or transfer ownership, it goes to someone else's hands, but I sort of still have it. So I actually need to actively do this. All right, now,